What's going on, everybody? It's FREEDO here for your Overwatch. The new Retribution game mode is quite difficult on Legendary, but after grinding it out myself, I figured out a lot of tricks that I'm going to try to teach you to take advantage of. I've personally been able to very safely get to the final section with random players even, utilizing a few just basic shot calls to kite some of the hardest enemies. And we called in a favor to get some footage from XQC, who played with a bunch of other Legendary streamers in order to complete a Legendary run themselves. So with the combination of those efforts, we'll be able to cover all bases. There's a whole lot that you can accomplish with just knowledge of how some of the engagements work and what your responsibilities are on different characters, but by the time you get to the end, you are going to have to make some clutch plays, and we're going to show you how to do that as well. We're going to run through some general tips and then give specific tips for the different encounters. In general, whenever you have the opportunity to back up a little bit and use cover to jiggle peek, as it's called in other FPS games, but to quickly peek in and out of cover, to take pot shots from distance, that's how you're going to really up your survivability in this game mode where you can die instantly. Another important aspect is knowing how to respect each enemy type and which hero has to come up big in order to counter them, but we'll treat those in isolation. From here, we'll go room by room. The opening room is fairly straightforward, but if you're quite flippant about your positioning, you can easily find that you and your teammates can get bursted down if you're not careful. So make sure you use the pillars or the tables in order to dodge shots, and you're going to come across one of the very important enemy types that you're going to have to outplay throughout the entirety of the mission, and that's the Enforcer. Every character can dodge his shots by quickly ducking around a corner when he's going to shoot, breaking line of sight, but if you are Genji or Reaper or Moira, you can use any of their movement abilities to quickly get out of the way. McCree can kind of roll, but unless it's around a corner, it's not really going to be good enough. But if you are Genji or McCree, you can use Reflect or Stun right about when the Enforcer is going to shoot in order to cancel that animation with either the stun or reflect it back at him for devastating damage with the Reflect. I want to re-emphasize the other point because I think it is so important. Take less damage. You can die instantly in this mode, so running out in the open, requiring a lot of heals from your Moira, is a surefire way to lose. You're going to take damage no matter what, but playing really cagey and letting your Genji and McCree try to carry from medium to longer ranges is the way to go. Oftentimes, it seems like Reaper players want to run out into the action. You can't really do that a lot in Legendary. Unfortunately, Reaper is kind of the tank in this composition, because he can go out, brawl a little bit. He takes a little bit more of a beating with 250 health, but not much more, and he can use Wraith form in order to draw enemy fire and aggro, and that's a really key point as well. That'll play a little bit more into the last stage that I think will be the most difficult for you. When the snipers lock onto you, there's a sound cue, so listen out for that, and make sure you duck away out of her line of sight in order to avoid getting one-shot killed. In my opinion, a lot of the times it's better to outplay the snipers rather than put ultimate resources into killing them, because I think a pack of Enforcers is much harder to burst down with how tanky they are, whereas the snipers you can kind of hide away from and they don't do much. There's a couple key points that you're going to want to try to use an ultimate if you can help it, and that is any instance when there's going to be a bunch of boats getting ready to unload their soldiers. McCree's High Noon can devastate a ton of Enforcers before they're in their deadly range, so you want to use that whenever possible. Especially at the street section, there's two ways you can go about beating these snipers. Either one, sit back in the house and plink them away from range and kill all of the additional enemies or adds first, and then worry about the snipers. However, note, if you wait too long, they will start to flank you and outposition you either on the left or right, so keep a lookout for that. Or you can go at them quite aggro, teleporting your Reaper and Genji Blade to go delete them instantly. Just be sure to avoid any of the lines of fire from the troopers and everything else if you're going to play it that way. If you want to take the easiest route, I suggest every time there's an assassin, one spawns on the bridge and then once again in the art museum, just casually back up, bait the assassin into attacking you, and then either use a dodge maneuver in order to confuse her, which she does kind of self-stun if Reaper wraiths as she's trying to pin him, or have McCree flash quickly at the ground to hit a reliable stun on her, and then follow up on the damage. Avoid the line of sight of the adds so they don't poke you down while you do this, but remember, kiting and staying alive is far more important than anything else. After you beat your first assassin, then you're going to come up against your first heavy assault, who again, I want to stress the strategy of avoiding his damage and extending the duration of time that you're up, rather than trying to commit fully and pop a bunch of ults in order to try to kill him really fast. That's what you would call rushing the engagement, whereas what I'm going to teach you to do is to kite him, which means basically string him along as the AI tries to bumble across the map in order to chase you down. And the best route I've found is to play the corners, try to get your poke damage in at range, heal up, safely poke him for a while, lure him down this hallway up these stairs, continue to poke, and then once he gets up here, then you try to make a break either for the bridge or wrap back around and do it again. It depends where he charges to, so you're gonna have on-the-spot decision-making in order to leave his line of sight immediately once he commits to an area. As you do this, you want to concentrate on the two most important things. One, killing the adds, because if you don't, they will overwhelm you and poke you down. And two, keeping out of line of sight of the heavy. As long as you're always keeping him at a safe distance, McCree and Genji will be able to eventually poke him down. Do not overcommit to fighting the assault into a corner. That's a big mistake. And also, you don't really want to use ults on him either, because he has massive critical hit zones, so keep aiming for that. Use your ultimates to kill the adds, and especially the enforcers, and you'll have a much better time. Now, going into the museum, there's another assassin. Back up, ready the stun, burst her down as she pops out. The other enemies you take out normally, and then once we get to the end, this is where things get absolutely crazy. There's a lot of high ground to utilize as well, a bit of a maze at the bottom of the area where the helicopter eventually comes. Now, in order to overcome this part, you have to adhere to a few principles. One, making sure you pop ults to quickly kill the packs of enforcers before they overwhelm you. Again, as they come across in these boats or ships, send either the High Noon or the Genji Blade at them, Death Blossom 2, to quickly wipe out those waves. But more than likely, you're going to find yourself in situations where the enemies just have too many different angles on you, and you can't kill them fast enough, and they're going to guarantee some damage, and someone's going to fall. In these cases, you have to have a strategy for clutching it and what it takes in order to clutch in these scenarios. If you're familiar with playing Call of Duty Zombies from back in the day, kiting along a big string of enemies when you're the last alive in order to save your teammates is a major skill set for a mode like this, and I'm going to try to break down how you can accomplish this yourself. McCree's kind of the worst for this because he has no mobility at all, so the other characters are far better at clutching late round, but nevertheless, we're going to break down two clutches that happened in order to save this legendary run that XQC and the guys were able to complete. One was against a normal pack of enemies, and then the next one will be against the assaults. Their Genji and McCree went down across on the high ground, and Reaper went to res, which is a very good idea because he can res during Wraith form, and very importantly, XQC tells Gale to make sure not to line of sight into the troopers and get shot as well, so that Gale could focus the healing on XQC, stay alive, get the reses up, and once they have their team members back, now they're back in action. But they're fighting up against heavy assaults on both sides, so they have to make a move. You have to bait out some of the mobility and the pins out of the assaults so that you can outposition them, because when they have their guns out, you can't really move. You have to get them to pin and then go. Notice Moira fade, Genji Swift Strike, and Reaper Wraith form away from the assault, and now it's time for them to try to duck for cover, get the heck out of here. Now, fortunately, McCree, he's so slow, and as he just cowboy struts across the high ground, he's starting to take some damage, and Gale's not able to heal him, and XQC is left stranded out on his own. When you're in these scenarios, don't panic. Don't try to res your teammate too quickly, and don't overextend yourself. It's always most important to avoid damage, especially against these one-hit kill enemies that are going to wreck you. Keep your composure and try to get a read on where all the enemies are spread out and find a path that leads you back to your team. So XQC is able to regroup with his allies. With some of these shake and bake maneuvers, they start to set up once again. However, the assault makes a hilarious play to come in and pin, knocking the enforcer towards him. XQC turns to kill the enforcer, but he gets himself pinned. What a hilarious, unfortunate turn of events. Him and McCree go down. Genji goes down as well. All that's left is Moira left in a corner to clutch this out. XQC helps with some shot calling from his perspective to be able to aid the Moira player to safety, and they send the Moira out into the distance to pull the aggro. This is tier 1 kiting right here, getting the assault to the other side of the map, and then wrapping all the way back around to get the res, because of course Moira moves faster than the assault as long as he doesn't pin in some way that teleports him across the map quickly. You should be able to do this, pull the assault out of the way, come back to res. They do cut it really close, only a few seconds to spare, player, but this is the type of maneuver you're going to have to do, because if the Moira tries to stay there and duke it out, you're just going to lose. You have to pull the assault away. And once they do that, they have the firepower to be able to take down the heavy assault. And once both of them are dead, the ship comes and you're free to leave. They kind of troll here a little bit trying to rack up the score, but you can just hop into the plane right away. I guess you get a higher score if you stay around and kill extra enemies, but I think you should thank your lucky stars that you even got it this far and hop in the plane and take your achievement and go home. An extra thing to note, somehow they got the assault to pin the other assault. I have no idea how much damage this does, if this was negligible or a serious strategy you should think about, but it definitely happened, and I'm sure it helped them out in this run. Guys, that's everything that I have for this legendary Retribution PvE guide. I hope it was helpful in order to aid you in finishing the PvE mission. It does, of course, help to have a very mechanically skilled Genji and McCree player, but even if you are not as good, I think you can utilize some of these tricks to eventually get there. I think with probably another 100 tries or something, I'll be able to finish it as well, but I wanted to be sure to get this video out to spread the tips that I've learned thus far, even though I wasn't able to complete it yet myself. Maybe I should watch my own video back and take down some tips so I can get the achievement as well. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave it a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, because we upload each and every day. So you're going to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Link to the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news, updates, and dank memes. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO for Your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.